just over a little piece of pastry. And we had an interesting rule on our table during the mess hall. It was 6 people. The food came in, somebody actually distributed, and we had this pastry. It's literally called arm börek, because it's a long, round thing. You divide it into pieces and you give it. That day, I was the guy who was dividing it. Of course, if you're dividing it, you're gonna leave the last piece a little bit bigger for yourself. Remember, we're 17-year-old kids. And this guy got the smallest one. He suddenly started, I got the smallest one. I said, you know the rule of this table. When you're distributing, you get the bigger one. And he got angry. I said, please, I don't want to hurt you. And he was also, a smaller kid than I am. And he started, F your mother, this and that. I don't even remember getting up. And 4 people were holding me by that time. That day I actually took a blood oath that never ever get into a fight. Now I get angry, I walk away. I don't know how to hit anymore, and I'm not that strong anymore, but still. Don't ever say F your mother to a Turkish boy. Turkish men, okay, they're mature enough, they can handle it. Plus, you never know who's packing. But, we know nobody was packing, and I knew I could take him. I was always smart. I never got into a fight where I wasn't sure I could take the person. I was angry, but not an idiot. All right, and I'm gonna post some more problems regarding the cash flow concepts we're covering today. And your quiz and homework, I already posted them, but they're not live yet. They're gonna be live at noon today. And you got until next Friday midnight, pretty much. All right, cash flow concepts. It's a lot easier just to write them. We're gonna first define operating cash flow. This may be different from the cash flow concept you may have seen in accounting, but this is finance. We do the real thing. Operating cash flow, we're gonna abbreviate that as OCF. OCF equals net income plus depreciation plus interest expense. This is kind of a direct way of calculating it. There's an alternative way. You calculate EBIT, earnings before interest and taxes, EBITDA actually. Then you add back the taxes. Then you have to calculate the taxes for that. But if you already have the net income, just go ahead and do it. And this number, depreciation times tax rate, is sometimes known as depreciation tax shield. It's basically the amount by which your taxes are reduced because of depreciation. There are certain depreciation methods that allow much faster depreciation. For example, the so-called makers, modified accelerated cost recovery system. For example, if an asset is subject to 5-year makers, the first year you write off 20%, just like the straight line, but the second year you write off 32%. So in the first 2 years you write off 52%. On straight line you would have written off only 40%, which means you're getting your money faster, or you're reducing your taxes faster. We're going to talk more about those when we're doing capital budgeting. But for now, that's what it is. Now, we're going to also define two more concepts. Cash flow to shareholders, CFTS, and we're going to write that as cash dividends minus net new equity. NNE. And net new equity is new equity raised minus repurchases. Sometimes companies actually buy their stocks from their shareholders in the market. That's called a repurchase. This is how much cash you are giving to your shareholders. If CFTS is negative, that means you actually got money from your shareholders. That's how I taught meaning of negative numbers to my kids back when they're 8 years old. He says, Dad, I know -2 is less than 0, but what does it mean? I said, if somebody owes you money, it's positive. If you owe somebody money, it's negative. I said, okay. And we also have cash flow to creditors. How much cash are you returning to your creditors? People who lend you money. This is obviously interest expense plus minus net new debt, net new borrowing. And then B is new borrowing minus repayment of debt. One thing you should keep in mind, when you make a payment that also involves an interest payment, you're going to take out the interest payments to figure out how much is repaid. And if you add the two, you're going to get something called cash flow from assets. This is how much cash you have generated from your assets. This is sometimes also known as free cash flow. You may have heard this in financial press. It is the amount of cash firm is free to distribute. And there are two ways to calculate it. One is cash flow to shareholders plus cash flow to creditors. If you have free cash flow, you either gave it to the shareholders or you gave it to the creditors. This is kind of, there are two ways to calculate cash flow from assets. The first one is where the money is going. Some of it to shareholders, some of it is creditors. The second way to calculate is where that money is coming from. So sources of CFFA operating cash flow minus change in net working capital minus net capital spending. So let's define those concepts. Changing current assets. That's capital Greek letter delta. It's kind of a universal symbol for change. minus change in current liabilities, and net capital spending is purchases of fixed assets minus sales of fixed assets at their book value, and minus depreciation. Actually, plus depreciation. Think of it this way. Suppose your net fixed assets stayed exactly the same.